This is John Moxon, and he was known for being a backup quarterback that spent most of his time reading Harry Potter books on the bench. But one game, his best friend got his jersey folded up while he was still wearing it, and that meant that Mox was finally going to have a chance to become the starting quarterback. And it turned out that Mox could really ball. Now sadly, he didn't want to keep playing after high school because he had a coach who damn near made him hate football. But based on how well he played, it only made people wonder just how great Mox could be. So today I am putting Jonathan Moxon into College Football 25. Let's see what would have happened if he focused more on football, as we'll follow him on his road to glory. Now out of high school, Mox was more focused on his books, because like I said, he had a coach who was a certified dickhead, likely to be inducted into the Hall of Fame of assholes any day now.
You're gonna be second string all your life, boy!
So his main focus was going to a school that could challenge him academically, but also allow him to have a good relationship with his coaches. And since John had already had a scholarship to Brown University, he had to choose a school that was at least in the similar ballpark of the same academic prestige. So Mox not really caring too much about whether or not he starts his first year, for his college decision, he decided to sign with Notre Dame. Now as soon as he got to campus, they did not have his number 4, but he did have a number that he could share with his best friend Lance, as it turns out that he would wear number 7 just like him. Now when John Moxon got to practice, he was the 4th string quarterback, but he was actually balling so much that they eventually moved him up to the 3rd string to allow him to travel to the games, and that was definitely cool with him. He was just happy to be with a new team far away from Texas, even if that meant that he would ride the bench throughout the entirety of his freshman season. Well, at least up until a day where he had a chance to become the 2nd string quarterback, and Mox just went out there and played as well as he always had the potential to. And by the end of the practice, regardless of the fact that he was a freshman, the coaches knew that he was more than fit to take the spot as the backup quarterback. And that was great for Mox as Notre Dame was heading to the playoffs to close out their season. He figured with the senior quarterback leaving, he could come back next year and potentially compete for the starting job. He believed that even though Notre Dame won their first matchup and were heading into another game against Ohio State, that he would not have to play a single down until at least the following year. And it turns out that Mox was wrong, because just like in high school, the starting quarterback is going down in a big game. And now out of nowhere, the freshman John Moxon is taking the field, and he's actually doing pretty well early on. He wasn't able to lead the offense to a touchdown, but they did get 3 points before the half. And John figured it was all good because in the second half, they'll have a good chance to come back in the game. But that was up until the moment where John threw his first pick. And I say first pick because, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Moxon was not ready to play in this game. He threw 2 picks in 1 quarter, and unlike high school, he could not unlock the magic that allowed his team to come back and win. So after throwing his 3rd interception of the game, John Mox's freshman season had finally come to a close, as Notre Dame would go on to lose this game 24-3. And John Moxon played probably one of the worst halves for a quarterback in Notre Dame history. But to be fair, the other quarterback wasn't too far behind him either. Regardless, Mox was the one who finished the game, and he was the one who caught most of the heat. Or at least he really thought he would. You see, back in Texas, his old coach would light his ass up like a Christmas tree. So for a little while, Mox thought he might have to transfer on up out of there and go to a school where he can turn over a new leaf. But it turns out that the coaches wanted him to compete for the backup role once again, with the potential that he might be able to become a starter later on in the season. The coaches understood that that was a tough position to put a true freshman in last season, and they want to give him a chance to really show them what he can do. But first, it starts with him earning back the role as the number 2 quarterback, and later on, he's just going to have to figure out how to earn that starting spot. But now Notre Dame is heading into their first game of the season against Syracuse, and Mox was able to watch from the bench as his team took care of business. It was nice that they won, but Mox was definitely starting to get the feeling that he wanted to be a part of it. So he was really working on building up his leadership in the locker room because one day, he knew that he was going to have a chance to make a big impact for this team. But for now, he just had to keep waiting his turn as Notre Dame was heading on the road to face off against Boston College. And in another game where Notre Dame was able to take care of business, Mox was happy that his team had come away with the W. But deep down, he felt like it was going to be a long season where he couldn't redeem himself for how he played in the Rose Bowl. At least that was until he finally got the chance to become the starting quarterback. Man, the following week the coaches had gave him this opportunity because they really just like his intangibles. You see, one thing about Mox is that not only is he physically gifted, but he's also very smart. His ability to read the field is a lot better than what the country saw in the Rose Bowl. And that's why by the end of this practice, Jonathan Moxon had become the starting quarterback for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But this is just where Mox's journey is about to really begin. He's taken over a 2-0 team that has a long season ahead of them. They have quite a few games on the schedule that could give Mox similar problems to what Ohio State did in the Rose Bowl. But for now, Mox is just hoping that he can keep things together and make some big plays in his first game as a starting college quarterback against Miami. Now, one thing that Mox understood about this defense is that the DBs are dropping back as soon as the ball is snapped, so he was finding a lot of guys quickly underneath in this game. But even though a lot of times he was trying to read the field quickly, even with just a simple 4-man rush from Miami, they were able to get home quite often. But on the very next play, Mox sees his man beat the corner and the safety's playing too far inside. So he drops a dime over the top, and his receiver is taking it to the end zone for his first passing touchdown of his career. That was a great play by the redshirt freshman to make this 7-0. But after Miami gives the ball back to Notre Dame with great field position, Mox gave the ball to his running back, who somehow bounced off some tackles, found his way around the edge, and was getting in the end zone for another score. In the first quarter, Notre Dame is starting this game 14-0. But for whatever reason, Miami is just allergic to playing offense, and they literally give the ball right back to Notre Dame, allowing Mox to get the ball out to his tight end on the zig route, who cuts it upfield for Mox's second touchdown of the game, now making this one 21-0 before the end of the first half. But they're going to get a chance to add to that lead because they get the ball back, this time with not so great field position. Didn't really seem to be a problem for Mox though, because he was delivering the ball to those open windows in the defense and brought his team straight downfield, where once again he found another guy out to his right side who brought it upfield for his third touchdown of the game. Jonathan Moxon was absolutely on fire. But in case y'all don't believe me about this Miami offense, I mean, just look. Notre Dame is getting the ball right at the goal line, and on the very first play, Mox is finding a man wide open in the end zone for his fourth touchdown of the game. An absolute masterclass performance by Moxon in his starting debut in college, and he had done enough to help his team put this game away, as Notre Dame goes on to absolutely obliterate Miami 45-0. And in his first game of the season, Mox wins Player of the Week. 240 plus passing yards and 4 touchdowns is not too bad for a freshman. And his dad back home was real proud about how far he's come with his accuracy.
Oh, nice.
But now going into the following week, Mox has another challenge ahead. He gets to play in his first ever home game, but he's about to face off against another top 25 ranked opponent, as Notre Dame is set to take on Texas A&M. On this opening drive of the game, Mox had pretty much dinked and dunked the whole way downfield. He had done an excellent job just taking what the defense had given him, eventually leading his team down to the goal line, where a handoff to the running back caps the drive off with a touchdown, tying this game up at 7-0. But it surprised a lot of people to see how this offense played throughout the rest of the game, because definitely throughout the rest of the first half they struggled and could barely even get past midfield. And it didn't get too much better in the second half, when almost every other play Mox was getting sacked. And when he wasn't getting sacked, he was running for his life, trying to make a play that would end up incomplete. But even late in this game, Notre Dame had a chance to win, at least until Mox got hit on a throw that ended up getting picked off. And after an absolute horrendous 3 quarters of football, Notre Dame would go on to lose their first game of the season, 14-7, in a game where, let's just say, Mox was hoping it would be his worst performance of the year. But on the bright side though, man, over the weekend Mox was able to hang out with his best friend Lance Harbor, and even got to hang out with his girlfriend too. And he definitely needed it, considering he was trying to get his mind off the bad performance that he just had. So going into the following week, he was prepared to have a big impact for his team, and hopefully help them get back on track with another victory against Purdue. Now unfortunately, this game did not get started as well as he wanted it to, as he gets stopped on 3rd down. But in the second quarter, he was looking to change that on this 3rd down and 5, where he rolled out, set his feet, and then dropped a dime over the top, eventually hitting his running back in stride, where he brought it into the end zone for a touchdown, putting up a score that puts Notre Dame in the lead 7-0, and the entire stadium could feel the vibe that this offense was just getting started. Because even though Mox is not known for being much of a runner, he was using his legs to make some big throws, leading his team back down to the goal line, where he threw his second touchdown to his fullback, putting up a score that would give Notre Dame the 8-point lead, and Notre Dame's momentum would carry over into the second half, well, besides this one play where Mox threw a pick. But it's all good, y'all, because he is still a freshman. And for being just a freshman, it's very impressive that he's able to fit some of these passes into these windows. This one barely sneaks into Jaden Greathouse before he takes it the distance for another touchdown on the day. And throughout the game, as Mox was getting more comfortable throwing to his playmakers were definitely getting more comfortable making plays. Especially the running back Jeremiah Love, who almost any time they gave him the ball, he was going for at least 3 to 5 yards, but this time it was for a touchdown. But by the time the end of the fourth quarter hit, with this Purdue defense run committing, it became very easy for Mox to just play pitch and catch to his receivers, as his number 1 comes up with another catch over the top to extend their lead to 2 possessions and effectively put an end to this game, as Notre Dame goes on to close this one out 35-32. And Jonathan Moxon goes on to have probably his best game of his entire career. 400 passing yards and 4 touchdowns is absolutely insane for a freshman. Now, he did throw 2 picks, so we'll be honest about that, but that's not even the point. The big thing here is that Mox is actually really starting to enjoy football. You see, back at home, he really just wanted to spend time with his friends. But now, here at Notre Dame, his main focus was just coming away with his next win, as Notre Dame was set to face off against Arkansas. Now, this game started off with Mox reading this man coverage clear as day, and he delivers a pass to his receiver on his whip route where he goes upfield and gets in for the score. An easy one early on to get this game started, but it seems like this offense is nowhere near done. Because on the very next possession on his 3rd and 2, he recognizes the single coverage on his receiver and throws it up top to give his guy a chance to make a play, and he definitely does. Coming up with the catch before being dragged in the end zone for the 2nd touchdown of the day for Notre Dame. Now, this offense was not running super smoothly all day, so I don't want you guys thinking he was out there going crazy. Because there was actually a play in the 3rd quarter on this 3rd and 16 where Mox had probably thrown the weakest pass of his entire life, getting intercepted for a pick 6. I'm pretty sure that's his first one of the season. But down the stretch with this game tied at 14, Mox had thrown some freaking dimes to get his team downfield, leading them to this 1st and 10 just outside the red zone where Mox had thrown a great anticipatory throw, and it somehow lands in the hands of his running back, scoring a touchdown to put them up by 7 late in the 4th quarter, and it turned out that this score would be enough to put this game away, as Notre Dame goes on to close this one out 21-14. And John Moxon wins another player of the game for his performance, as each of his 3 touchdowns were vital to his team's victory. Now, things were going well for Moxon. He definitely expected that he would get more attention from people, but what he didn't expect was that his best friend Lance's girlfriend was trying to hang out with him. I mean, he didn't really think too much of it because he's known her for a long time. But you see, Mox hadn't put it together yet just exactly what kind of timing this girl was on, because he already had enough on his mind trying to lead his team to victory every Saturday. And he knew that with there being some tough games ahead on their schedule, he needed to be as focused as possible, especially as Notre Dame was heading into their next game at home against Boise State. Now, this was another game where it didn't get started out too hot for Mox, as he was sacked for a fumble on the opening possession, but at the very least the drive did end in 3. This Notre Dame offense didn't really start getting anything going until a receiver broke past the DB, and Mox had noticed the safety fly to the other side of the field just in time for him to throw a shot over the top. And like they have all season, these two connect for another touchdown, putting this game at 10-7. Now, luckily, Notre Dame was able to get the ball back right before half. And even more luckily, somehow Mox was able to get this throw off. And the most luckiest thing about this play is that not only was there a pass interference, but Jaden Greathouse actually caught the ball. So Notre Dame declined the penalty for a touchdown right before half. Now, it seems like in the second half, Notre Dame's luck began to run out after Mox throws a pick. A bad one, too, that probably could have resulted in some points. But the good news is that Boise State's offense is not playing anywhere near the level of their defense, and their defense isn't even playing that well either. They let Mox just methodically drive his team downfield, and even on this play, he had broken off a sack, found his way around the edge, and he was getting in the end zone for his first rushing touchdown of his career. A score that probably already began to put this game out of reach. But you see, Mox and his Notre Dame offense just had to be sure. So on the following drive, with just a little over 2 minutes left, he throws the ball up to his guy Jaden Greathouse, who snags the ball out the sky for another touchdown. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Moxon had led his team to another victory because this game was over. Notre Dame goes on to win this one 31-21, and Jonathan Moxon wins another player of the game with over 350 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Now, at this point in the season, he wasn't near the top of the leaderboard for passing, so even though he was playing well, he expected not to be anywhere near the race for the Heisman. Now, what he didn't expect was that his friend Lance's girlfriend was trying to get freaky. Bro did not know that she was trying to pull up and get her cheeks clapped to smithereens. And even though at first Mox was with it and willing to do whatever, he realized he just couldn't do that to his friend Lance. And he knew that it just wasn't in him to switch up on his day one for some 304. He didn't want to carry that guilt around in his head, and especially not going into the next game against one of the top-ranked teams in the country. As the following week, Mox has another big game against the number 19th ranked USC. Now, one thing that Jonathan Moxon did not necessarily excel in is running the ball. And not because he wasn't able to make a play from time to time, but because when he did, he was often fumbling. Just like he did early on, actually twice in this game just in the first quarter. And it wouldn't be till the end of the first quarter where Mox would start finding people open underneath, ultimately bringing them down just outside the red zone where he threw a pass out to the left side, and his receiver came up with the catch for the score, as they were finally able to start putting up some points in this game. But when they got the ball back after halftime, they were still down by 14. But it was all good because Moxon was delivering some throws that would get his team downfield, like this dime that got his team past the 50, and then this play on 1st and 10 where he takes a hit and still delivers an absolute dot for a touchdown. Mox was out here showing just how good he can be at his highest potential. But this was also a game where it seems like he was showcasing his lowest potential too, because he was out here fumbling for the 3rd time in the game. giving away a possession that could have gave Notre Dame a chance to tie the game up. But luckily they would get the ball back with the game still at one possession, and John had decided to take a shot deep to the right side, where on 3rd and 17 he connects with his receiver for a big play downfield, as the receiver crosses over the goal line to finally get them back in this game. But USC's offense does not seem to want to make it easy on Notre Dame. So with 1 minute left, Mox is going to try to orchestrate his drive downfield to get his team a chance to tie this game. And he's doing a great job finding his open receivers on the outside. And this one was able to turn it upfield, and out of nowhere he is gone. This dude had a chance to take it the distance for a touchdown on 3rd and 6. And after he does, now Notre Dame has an opportunity to tie this game up with a 2-point conversion. So with the game on the line, Mox drops back to pass, tries to fit the ball into the outside, but it falls incomplete. And after a hard-fought battle back in this game, Notre Dame would go on to lose their second one of the season. They lose 28-26 in a game where Mox actually played incredible. If it weren't for those 4 fumbles, they definitely would have found a way to win this game. And the Notre Dame faithful are definitely letting him hear about it because that's a game that they should have won. So at this point, Jonathan Moxon knows that all he can do is just work hard to be better. He didn't realize how much that whole thing with Lance's girlfriend would affect him. But he knows that going forward, he can't let anything get in the way of him making mistakes on the field. And with the chance for Notre Dame to still make the college football playoffs, all he'll have to do is just lock back in and become the true leader that he knows that he can be. Mox came out here in a game against the Navy and was lighting it up early, coming up with a touchdown to make it 7-0 in the first quarter, and he continued to play well all throughout even though his offense wasn't putting up a lot of points. But by the time it was the end of the fourth quarter, they were already up by 10, and Johnny Moxon had passed the ball over to Jaden Greathouse, who came up with the reception and the score to put this game away. As Notre Dame went on to win this one 27-10, and Jaden Greathouse actually went on to win player of the game, and Mox had played well and done a good job limiting turnovers. But he knew he had to keep that up going into another home game against NC State. We start this game off at the end of the first half where Mox notices those safeties are not rolling over fast enough, and he's able to just barely fit this ball in for a touchdown, a score that would ultimately give them a 1-point lead going into the second half. And Mox was determined to build on it by trusting his guys to make a play, and they definitely do. They get down to the goal line on this drive, and then a couple plays later, a jet touch pass caps it off, putting this game at 14-6 before it actually ends up being 14-14 at the end of the game. And you see, even though coach called a run play on 3rd down, Mox had the perfect play for this style of defense. And as soon as he snapped the ball, he dropped back to pass and fired the ball out to the right side, where he indeed found a guy wide open, getting his team in for a touchdown that would take the lead with less than a minute left in this game, and also do enough to put it away, as they go on to win 21-14, thanks to John Moxon's 240-plus passing yards and 3 touchdowns. At this point, Mox was absolutely on fire, but he knew he needed to keep this momentum up going into the last few games of the year, especially in his next one against Pittsburgh. Notre Dame had started this game out like they did many of their previous games, a touchdown on their opening drive. But this game seemed to be a little bit more of a test for Johnny as he was having to improvise a lot in order to make plays. Oftentimes he did though, and he would eventually lead his team down to the goal line where he handed it off to the running back and he pretty easily brought it in for a touchdown. Now what Johnny didn't realize is that this game would actually end up being a shootout, because in the second half he found himself having to go downfield and score a touchdown to take a lead that would eventually be gone in just a few minutes, leading Johnny to have to lead his team on a game-winning drive. Where on the second down his receiver got open over the top, and they had pretty easily gotten in for a touchdown with a minute left in this game and had finally done enough to come away with another victory. They go on to win this one 31-21, and Johnny almost passes for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Another game where he's played pretty well, but with just a couple games left in the season, he and this Notre Dame team as a whole is pretty much on cruise control. They know they just got to take care of business for the last 2 games, and they came in here in Stanford's house to do just that. In this game, Mox was finding his tight end open downfield for a big gain that resulted in a score. And it turns out that score would actually carry a lot of weight going forward throughout this game, because by the end of it, it was still 10-0, and even with the Notre Dame offense struggling a lot throughout the second half, they were still able to come away with a victory. Notre Dame goes on to win 13-0, and it was probably one of, if not the worst game of the season for Mox. But regardless, a win is a win. And Mox at the end of the season actually has a lot of reporters asking him questions, including one that was a little weirded out by his answers.
Mox, how does it feel to be out of Lance Harbor's shadow and showing everyone that you've been underrated?
I just want to thank God and my teammates for me today. I mean, Jonathan Moxon's only one man.
Thanks.
Now, since Notre Dame does not have a conference, they will not be playing in a conference championship, which means that there are some awards to be given out. Quarterback out of Clemson goes on to win the Heisman Trophy, and that was cool and all, but Mox actually went on to earn freshman All-FBS Independence, ending the year with almost 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. That is actually kind of awesome for a freshman season, and the best part about it is that Mox hasn't reached anywhere near his max potential. He was hoping that it would come out soon though, as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish were heading into the college football playoffs. And now 1 year from the day that Jonathan Moxon had to come in and replace the quarterback in the Rose Bowl, where he stunk it up and threw a bunch of picks, he has found his way right back, this time as the starter, and he has to find a way to take down the Michigan Wolverines. Now on this opening drive, Mox is doing a great job getting the ball out to his playmakers, just like on this screen pass where the running back gets out to the sideline and picks up a huge first down. But Mox was also just delivering some crazy throws all over the field on this drive, ultimately leading them down to the goal line where he had a very easy one and found his tight end for a touchdown, putting this game at 7-0 early on, and they were looking to build on that more on their next drive as they got down to the goal line, but they got stopped and had to settle for 3. Notre Dame got the ball back before the half ended though, and Mox noticed that the cornerback did not make the right decision, so he fired that ball in for a first down, leading them down to the goal line where another pass to the tight end makes it his second touchdown of the game, and also makes this a 3-possession lead going into the second half, where it seems like Mox and his offense have no plans of stopping, because on one of the first plays of the game, Mox finds the guy wide open for another touchdown. This game is already about to be 24-0, and it's getting out of hand. It was getting to a point where even Mox couldn't believe that he was doing this against one of the best teams in the country. By the time the fourth quarter rolled around, it became more clear than ever that this cannot get any more real than it already is. They played probably as well as they have all season, and you know things are going well when somehow Mox is able to get in for a rushing touchdown, a score that puts this game away and sends Notre Dame to the next round, as they go on to demolish Michigan 37-12. In a game where John Moxon had conquered his demons, throwing for over 300 yards and scoring 5 touchdowns. The dude had played his best game of the year in the biggest moment, and he figured since he's coming off such a big win, he can go hang out with his friend Lance, who unfortunately got injured in the last game of his season at Florida State. So he and his friends decided that they're going to go out to the club and have a good time. It's just too bad that Mox had waited until the night before his next playoff game to go out, because them boys did not leave the club until 7 a.m. And to say that Mox was feeling the effects of the club going into the game would be a heavy understatement. But he was just going to have to do whatever he can to come away with the victory in the toughest game of the year. Now Mox had started this game out well by getting the ball out to his guys, picking up some first downs that would eventually get his team in field goal range, where after they fail on this third down conversion, Notre Dame would actually go on to miss the field goal and Clemson goes up by 7. But when Mox and his Notre Dame offense got the ball back, it only took one play to change that, as Johnny dropped back and delivered an absolute rocket down the right side of the field, and it ends up being caught for a touchdown, tying this game up at 7. But with less than 1 minute left in the half, Clemson actually scores, leaving Notre Dame to have to figure out a way to make a play of their own. So with less than 40 seconds left, Mox just says, fuck it, somebody gonna be down there. And his pass is actually caught, hauled in by Jeremiah Love, who brings it in for a touchdown to close out the half, and tie this game up at 14 in the process. And with Notre Dame getting the ball after half, it feels like they're about to have a lot of momentum going their way. But those feelings would evolve into more than just that after Johnny drops another dime down the right side of the field, where the receiver had hauled it in for a touchdown to give Notre Dame for the lead for the first time in this game. But when they got the ball back in the fourth quarter, all of that would change, because out of nowhere John Moxon was throwing probably the worst pass of the entire season. A pass that not only gets picked off in the fourth quarter, but goes all the way to the crib for a touchdown, giving Clemson the lead in the process. And honestly, that pressure had actually started to get to Moxon's head. You gotta remember that this kid is just a freshman, so him diming all these teams up is actually pretty incredible. And the sad reality is that when he went on to throw another pick, that's what many people expected. And just like that, Jonathan Moxon's redshirt freshman season has come to a close, as Notre Dame goes on to lose this one 21-28. And John Moxon didn't have a horrible game, but those fourth quarter mistakes were definitely costly, and almost certainly the reason why they lost. But for his final season stats, John can actually be proud to be one of the top leading passers in the country. It's pretty impressive for a 4-star quarterback who many people did not think would be the starter this year. And the fact that he went on to break the Notre Dame passing touchdown record at 38 is pretty impressive. But now at this point, John feels like his focus should be on trying to win a championship. So he's taking some time to think about what his future should be and where it should be. Whether he stays at Notre Dame or not, he just wants to find a way to win a championship. He doesn't care if he has to have his friend Billy Bob block for him. So Jonathan Moxon definitely has some decisions to make, but I'll let you guys be the ones to decide. If you want to see part 2 of this video, be sure to get this one to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also be sure to comment down below what else you guys want to see next, and check out some of these other videos until the next one comes out. If you got to this point in the video, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and other than that, I'm going to catch you guys next time.